Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
To the Friends of Zeus podcast. Tonight, a very special episode. We're going to talk about unsolved mysteries. Our favorite, perplexing, weirdest, unusual, craziest unsolved mysteries that we hold near and dear to our hearts. So the explanations that you hear tonight, they may not be the true explanations, but it's the best we could come up with. Okay. So who wants to kick it off? We each came up with three unsolved mysteries that we're going to go over tonight. We're going to rotate, take turns discussing our unsolved mysteries. Who wants to go first?
You want to go first?
No, I just did the whole intro.
Was Jack going first? I
Might
can't
go
go
first.
first. I
Why?
can't. Mine are too. We need something to lead in.
Oh, okay. Jack, you go first.
Okay, I guess. All right. So we were thinking about coming up with our favorite unsolved mysteries.
I don't know if I would call this a favorites unsolved mysteries. Just ones I could think of off the top of my head.
Okay, well that's right.
Most intriguing.
Mysteries that we could take it or leave it.
Yeah, top of your head, like what intrigues you the most, I guess, right? And so I looked at the popular, unsolved mysteries, and the first one I saw is one that I've been fascinated about since I was a kid, and that was the Jack the Ripper murders.
Mhm.
Which, this was like a late 19th century killer who basically created the MO for serial killers. And to me, it was always fascinating the fact that all this time has been put into it and nobody knows who did it. And there are stories where they think he's a doctor or they think he's a butcher, and that's the kind of forensics that I guess they were figuring out at the time. They were hammering out, and I just think it's a great unsolved mystery.
You know, did he ever leave any notes or messages or correspondence with authorities or anything?
Yeah,
he did. There was letters, but they turned out to be hoaxes.
Well, right.
Some of them were attributed to him, were they not?
Well, no, that's like the whole point of contention is who was the real Jack the Ripper, because they got so many notes from different people. I think it was kind of like gagging the police.
But he wasn't leaving like calling cards on bodies or anything like that.
No.
Other than his technique, I guess. Right? I mean, he didn't leave a note, like he wasn't leaving like playing cards in people's pockets or something like.
No, he wasn't jigsawing it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I just think it's a cool story.
The thing that's weird about that is how he the murders that he committed were so, like you said, they were so complex. Like he would like gut people,
right,
so quickly, like that. It was crazy. Like, so he had to have been. How can you just gut somebody in the middle of the street and no one see you? I mean, that's got to take a second or two.
Right, and it also made them think that it was doctors for a while because they said that it was like surgical precision or something. I mean,
just doctors dumping people in the road.
Well, it's also like the basis for so many movies that we saw growing up, because it's like he literally stalked like prostitutes and he kind of killed people that no one gave a shit about and kind of kept it low key. And then they started, he left a calling card in a sense of the way that he butchered them. I mean, so
did he?
I don't know.
Were all his victims women? Were all his victims?
I think so.
Yeah. I know he killed there's 11 that they attribute to him.
Right.
I think they all were women, but honestly, I'm not sure.
Didn't somebody come up with a theory that he's a Zodiac killer? Or something like that.
How is it the same person?
I know, that's what I'm saying, but they say that, I don't know, there's a weird theory that some American serial killer is also.
Yeah,
unless you're talking supernatural.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking of the right person.
So anyway, if that might, maybe that's lame. I don't know what you guys were looking for. What do you got, Mike?
For what about the Jack the Ripper?
No, I mean your favorite.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, but before we get to that, I would like to make everyone know, if anyone in our viewer audience has any information about anything to do with Jack the Ripper, please contact us here at Friends of Zeus podcast.
H.H. Holmes.
And we will pass the information on to the proper authorities. And
different MO.
Yeah,
I know, but that is one of the theory tracks.
Maybe you can help solve one of these mysteries.
So yes, Jack was unaware that we have to be contemporary. I apologize for the historical unsolved mystery.
No, I was looking like at ancient mysteries. I was trying to go like way back at first.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be contemporary. So yeah, I can go next. This one is again pretty. You guys may have heard of this guy, guys or whatever. This is Edgar Allan Poe. So,
A Telltale Heart.
Yeah, and he died in mid 1800s, like 1840, 1850, something like that. And he was buried at a church graveyard in Baltimore. And he actually has there's two grave sites. There's the one he was originally buried at, which is the one pictured here. And it's kind of way in the back of the cemetery. I've been here before. It's hard.
I was gonna say, you've been to his grave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's weird. I mean, it's cool, but it's weird.
It's hard to get. It's not hard to get to, but you can't really see it very well. So they put one kind of up front in the cemetery that's nice and big and ornate. And I believe his wife is buried in that one, but everyone kind of thinks that's the grave, but he was in the back. Anyway, starting in 1930, this phenomenon started happening where on the evening of his birthday, which is January the 19th, the next morning, the people at the church or, the grave tenders or whatever found in 1930, they found this open bottle of cognac and a glass and 3, I think they were white roses on this grave, the one that's pictured behind me. And it went on every year all through the rest of the 20th century. I went 1 year. I went January 19th in 2008. And I didn't get to see him, but it was a lot of people there because it became a thing. And he could come anytime at night. So sometimes, people may see him come and it was 2 a.m. Other times it was midnight. Other times it was right before dawn. Through
people actually witnessed the guy.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
So it was. He would dress in like a long cape. You couldn't really see his face.
Was it Jack the Ripper?
I guess I don't know. and he'd open up the cognac and like have a drink and like make a toast, and then he would like leave the bottle there and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it went on through. I think it was in like 1997 or early 90s. He left a note saying that the torch is going to be passed soon, and there was people that were really into going there. And people were very respectful. One, it's in a gated cemetery in a church, so you can't enter the cemetery in the middle of the night, but people would line the street outside. And there were different entrances to the cemetery. Sometimes he actually came in through the church. But anyway, starting, I think in 1998 was the last one for the original, who they call the original toaster, because they could kind of tell just from his size. He was a big guy and his mannerisms and stuff like that. And then starting in 1999, there was another one who referred to himself as the son. So people were assuming maybe it's, the guy died and his son took over. And that went on until 2009 was the last time that he appeared. And there's been hoaxes. There's been people that, they knew it was a hoax because after 2009, there'd be like 3 Poes showing or Poe toasters showing up. They're like, okay. But now, as of like, I think 2015, it stopped. And recently they're kind of turning it into a thing where they're doing it during the day and they're not trying to be creepy about it. And they have people volunteering to play the part. Whatever. The point is, to this day, nobody knows who the original guy or the second guy was. Who did it. And I'm saying no one knows, but we don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody knows. But again, I don't know if this story even gets talked about outside of Baltimore, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It used to be quite a group of people that would be hanging out there waiting for this guy. I didn't go till 2008, but
And these
Anyway.
I
fake,
didn't know he actually had a grave somewhere. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
And
that's why
actually,
the
I think
Baltimore Ravens are called the Ravens.
That's why the
Are you
Ravens.
serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, because of Edgar Allan Poe.
Mm.
From his story, The Raven. Yeah, exactly.
Now he was a big drinker, right? When he was alive.
A drinker, but people were like, "Why cognac?" Because it's not mentioned in any of his stories, and he wasn't known to drink cognac. So who knows? The guy, the son, did leave a note before the Giants Ravens Super Bowl, and he poetically predicted that the Giants were going to win, which is kind of. I remember that when that happened, people were like, "What the fuck, man? Like, New York has to have everything. Poe Toaster's our thing, and he's rooting for the Giants." But the Ravens won, so.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was terrible, by the way.
34-7.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, I've got a tattoo. No.
Was that the Kerry Collins version of the Giants?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Jason Sehorn.
I still say that game was so surprising, not to get off topic, but the week before, the Giants beat the Vikings like 40-0 or some crazy. I mean, just destroyed them. Like, I was nervous.
No,
anyway,
that was just an upset.
Anything can happen.
We should move on. We should.
We're okay. Let's go. Who's next?
Tom?
Should I go?
Yep.
All
sure.
right. I'm going to start with the Oak Island mystery. So I think everybody's familiar with this.
I never heard of this.
Never heard of Oak Island?
Maybe I haven't. I'm just
So Oak Island is an island up in Nova Scotia. It's a small island, like right off the coast of Nova Scotia, and there's a long theory about a treasure being buried there. So for like 200 years, people have been digging for this treasure and trying to find it and spending millions, probably more than the treasure's worth they've spent trying to find this treasure.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, what's the treasure room to be? Do we know what they say that is in the treasure box?
Okay, let me give you, I'm going to give you like literally the Reader's Digest version, because I'm going to read this right out of Reader's Digest. But I'm going to have to skip through it's very eloquently written, so I'm going to have to paraphrase parts of it. But I'll give you the gist of the story. So 1795, there was a 16-year-old boy named Daniel McGinnis from Nova Scotia, and he paddled a boat over across the bay to Oak Island, and he was hunting over there, and he saw this one spot where there was like a depression in the ground, and it was like 12 feet in diameter, and then 16 feet above that he saw a sawed-off tree limb where there was like a ship's tackle block hanging from that, so like somebody was using it to hoist something heavy. So he got like real excited, so he went back home. The next day, he came back with two of his friends, Tony Vaughn and Jack Smith, and they began digging. So this is where it gets kind of interesting and mysterious. So these boys, teenagers, they're digging. They get down 10 feet into the ground. They think they're going to find like a buried treasure chest or something. They hit like a wooden platform 10 feet down, exactly 10 feet down, and it's made out of oak logs. But really, they could tell it wasn't like recent. They're like really aged old like oak logs. It's like, okay, so they throw the logs off, they dig, they get down to 20 feet, same thing, another wooden platform, like just logs across. So wow, okay, so they take those out, they dig again, 30 feet down, they get another wooden platform. This keeps going on and on as they dig down. And on the walls, they notice that the walls have like clay on them, kind of like a waterproofing, and pickaxe marks. So they're seeing like some signs that something serious was happening. So they're thinking the further down they go, they're thinking, okay, this treasure's getting like bigger and bigger the further down that they dig. So
did they get to China eventually?
Well, they kept going. They went all the way down, and they kept hitting the layers, and then they would find like coconut fiber, which is not native to that area. So that usually comes from like the Caribbean area or somewhere. They'd find charcoal, stuff that's not normally there. and they got down to 90 feet. And at the 90-foot mark, there was like this, they found like a rock with some, like a code sort of engraved on it. And it was later deciphered that the code read 10 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. So
Like
now they
pounds
didn't
is
know
in
that at,
English pounds.
British.
well, that was never explained, but I would
Oh,
assume so. It could
maybe
be
2
2
million
million
pounds of gold.
pounds. Yeah, could be anything. Who knows? But they kept digging and digging. And then eventually, so they were trying to get down a little bit further, but then all of a sudden they got to the point where a bunch of water started to flood in, and they think that it was kind of booby trapped. So all this water
Booby.
flooded into the pit that they were digging, and they couldn't go any further. So those boys never actually got uh, anything out of the money pit. Is what
And what
came to be
year-ish
known.
was that? Like when did
1795. So it's
Wow.
about
And
225 years ago.
I mean, digging 90 feet down in
Just with shovels?
1795 is no joke.
Yeah,
Well, if you think there's gold down there, you're gonna work. You can make quick work out of it.
I mean, they got to shore it and all that. I mean, geez.
yeah. Like, wouldn't they need like the whole village to come and dig? Like, is that the story that the whole village disappeared, or is it just that?
No,
No,
there's
you're
no
thinking of like
village.
Roanoke Island, where the
So,
whole village disappeared. That's something else.
okay, so what's the mystery with the kids that collapsed under the
So they
thing?
never found anything. So, but over the years, people have been coming and trying to dig it out. You know, different people will buy that spot of the island. They'll use, people have come in with machinery, with drills. They've gone down. So even to this day, people are still there. Like I said, probably spending more money than the treasure is worth. And nobody knows for sure who started it. I mean, who supposedly buried anything there. Could be pirates. People think it could be Shakespeare's plays, which is a stupid idea, but a lot of people keep bringing that up. Like his, like, why would you take paper and bury it in the sand? That doesn't make any sense to me.
In
People think
Canada.
it could be the Ark of the
In
Covenant. Could be
Canada,
buried
that's
down
like the
there.
funniest part.
They're probably just at the end of at the bottom of the island, and that's why the water keeps coming through. Like
I heard that there's theories that the Ark of the Covenant is there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, that's what I kind of, I mean, I don't think it's the Ark of the Covenant, but there's a lot of clues about the Knights Templar. Because when they got kicked out of France and Portugal, that they came over and buried the remaining remnants of their gold and treasure down there. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. But even to this
Right.
day, the current owners of the island are the Laginas brothers, and they have a show on the History Channel, The Curse of Oak Island, where they're still digging and they're using like high tech. You know, they got radar, lidar, you know, metal detectors.
I
They've
don't
got
trust
everything. They're
lidar.
drilling down. They've got this huge, you know, machinery where they've drilled, and it's like Swiss cheese now. This whole money pit area, and they've kind of lost track of where the actual money pit, the original one, is.
Mhm.
Which, because people have just like blown up this whole area, digging through it. But
You
these
know what?
brothers, so they're still where they're finding like little. I mean, if you watch that show, I got hooked on it. They're going into like season 11 now, but they've come up with so many interesting clues and a lot of stuff about the Templars
Mhm.
and things like that. And they found like little bits and pieces. They haven't really uncovered anything good
The
that we.
Triangle Swamp, like, isn't there like a triangle
Yeah, there's a
swamp? It's been a
swamp
while.
on the middle part of the island that's shaped like a triangle, and they think that it's kind of man-made, that it wasn't really there naturally, that somebody like filled it in. So there, I mean, there's so much intriguing
So what
stuff
part of
on
the
that island.
island did they found the rock? Right in the middle or like on the edge?
It's kind of I'd have to show you a map of the island, but it's kind of like on I think it's on like the southern, not on the edge, but
Southern side.
the
outer
the island is
portion.
kind of shaped like a lima bean, sort of.
Mhm.
It's like in kind of, I don't know how to
Well,
describe
I
it. It's not
wonder
in the
if
middle,
like
but
the part, if that was one of them islands that was like broke off from the mainland and kind of floated. I know that's not how islands are created, but
it's a floating island.
a floating island. Or maybe like, plate tectonics, how maybe it
Yeah.
was created in one spot and
It
then
was only
got
1795.
moved to another spot.
Well,
No, I don't think that. But to me, I mean, going back to that original story that started the whole thing, when you think, okay, if it's some kind of secret buried treasure, Knights Templar or the military, or you don't like leave like the tackle thing hanging from the tree, like right above the spot where you buried
Like X
$2
marks the
million
spot.
worth of gold. That's kind of stupid. Something's wrong with that story, but it's such a fascinating story and it's a mystery and they're
It's
still
probably on the
searching.
opposite side of the island. They just put that there
Yeah.
to throw
A
people
lot of
off.
people think that. They think, okay, and maybe this is just a diversion. It's somewhere else, but they've been finding like all kind of old. They're like
Yeah,
digging and
things that
digging. They'll
shouldn't
find
be
like old
there.
stone roads
Yeah.
underneath the ground. They're finding like weird. Just it's a fascinating story.
The thing that intrigued me, and I watched early on, I guess when they started, but the idea, because I was like, why would someone pick this island? And it's like geographically, it's like the last landmass. If you're transverse, going across the Atlantic in those days back in the day, it would kind of be the last land you would see if you were following the northern route across the Atlantic. And likewise, one of the first ones you would see on the way back. So people that were going back to Europe with treasure and all that stuff, if they had maybe like 1% of it, they'd kind of like stash on Oak Island to come back and get themselves and not turn in. I thought that was pretty good. So geographically, it is in a route. It's in a shipping or a sailing lane, I guess you would say. So it's not just like some rando island or anything.
And when people like when the Vikings would come over and they'd kind of like do some island hopping and come down the coast, so you would run into Oak Island along the way.
All right, if anyone has any information about Oak Island, check our email address.
If you found the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my first one is Jean-Benet Ramsey. Everyone knows the story. But they still haven't been able to figure out who killed her. There's all these theories out there and that the mom did it. Well, she died, but she was exonerated. And then there's theories of like the brother did it, which I always thought that was weird. And then there's like randomly like somebody will come out of the woodworks and be like, oh yeah, I did it. And they didn't. And I don't want to say most recently, but one of the more non-looked into like persons or suspects is like around the same time, maybe a couple weeks prior to her death, like down the street a little bit, there was another, I don't know if it was a murder, but I think maybe like a sexual assault or a kidnapping or some kind of something that, please get off the screen. You look like a creep.
I got another mystery. No, sorry.
Anyway, but they never looked into the person who did this crime that was committed like a couple of streets away from Jean-Benet's home in which she was murdered in. So it's like, that seems really weird. Why would you not look into that? But yeah, the Boulder police have just never been able to figure this one out. I don't know how this seems so straightforward. It seems like there should be some DNA. Like, I don't know, if you really look into this case, it just, all the stuff that they say, they're like, oh, well, there was no signs of 4th century. Yeah, there was a broken window in the basement with, disturbed leaves and stuff. Like, I don't know. It seems really weird to me, like why this specifically wouldn't have
Wasn't the body found in the basement?
Mm-hmm.
And when this happened, man, you couldn't walk 10 feet without hearing it on the radio, TV, newspaper. I mean, they talked about it on Oprah, Donahue, Jerry Springer. I mean, it was a phenomenon. I just feel bad for the parents, man. If they didn't, I mean, one, they lost their child, but two, they were like so being blamed by people at the beginning.
But are we sure that they didn't do it?
I mean,
what do you guys think? What's your theory? Tom, you go first.
I would think it would have to be, and there was something about, I forget all the details, but I thought that window was like either busted outwards or something about it where nobody could have come in through that window. But I would think it was probably the dad. It's usually like, the dad in these cases.
I just don't know enough about it to even have. I just have no idea. I mean, to me, maybe it just seems like a stranger. I mean, if it was someone in the family, I just feel like after this amount of time, someone would have broken it.
But if it was a stranger, normally they'll take the child away. But why would they kill her and stick her kind of hid her in like a crawl space? I forget where it was like behind
the
some
wine
stuff.
cellar.
Yeah, the wine cellar. I mean, if you're a stranger, you would just kind of kill and run. Why hide the body and all that stuff and tucked away in a spot where like a normal, person that didn't live there probably wouldn't know how to get into there.
Well, the person that committed the crime that was not very far from Jean Bonnet's home, they didn't take her. They just I don't know. I don't exactly remember what they did. I think it was a sexual assault, and then they left. They didn't take her nowhere.
Was that a murder or just?
No, it wasn't a murder. It was just I think it was just an assault of some sort. It's like a person snuck in the window, did the thing, and left.
Wow.
Jack, what do you think?
She was kind of a public figure, right? Because she was doing these sort of, what do you call them, the beauty pageants. So she could have had a stalker. It's possible.
Yes, yeah, that's what I remember about that case, though, on TV, just watching it like you guys. Like, I didn't even know there was such a thing as like the baby beauty pageant thing, or that there were baby pageant moms. Like, none of us knew any of that shit. And that was like an entire subculture, we come to find out, and they're making like Netflix series about it and HBO or whatever. And I just remember like wondering why it was this huge story, but then it was kind of like the little girl who fell down the well. Like, Jean Bonnet looked like a little like Cupid doll with all the makeup and the hair. There was something just really strange about it.
I don't even know what she looks like not
without that. Yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah,
she just looks like a regular kid.
Yeah, but it was bizarre, I think, to America to see, okay, that's a kid dressed up like she's in a beauty pageant, and this is a thing. Because then they got into that whole shit with the beauty pageant moms, or being a certain type, they're taskmasters, and it's all the things you could say about it. And I just don't remember ever knowing about that until then. And I think, again,
that's because you're a boy.
Part of the fascination too was it was this little girl who was made up to look like a doll, and it was sort of strange, I think, to everybody.
Yeah, I remember being like, "What in the hell is that?" Like, that was the first time I learned about that whole.
It was just
what year
bizarre.
was that? Do you remember what year that was?
The 90s. 96, maybe 98. So Jack, who do you think did it?
Oh, I have no idea.
The mom, the brother, or the intruder theory?
No, the case was so long ago. I have no idea.
Stuff just doesn't stick in your mind.
I just gotta believe it's an intruder.
I think it's It's an intruder too.
I just can't believe.
I don't remember that. What year was that? 1990.
I don't know. 90 something.
Okay, well, if it was the 90s, I mostly didn't care.
Well, their house was really nice. Like, it was like a million. Like, I can't remember what her dad did for a living, but he was like 1980, like Atlanta. Or no, that's when she was
Christmas of 96.
1996. That's when she was born. It's 1990.
Oh, forget it. I was 25. I just remember her.
And it was Christmas Day they found her.
The day after Christmas.
Oh.
I think.
Yeah, that made it good TV too. If they had this beautiful home and they were this perfect family.
Oh, it was It was, and they sold it, and somebody lives there. A murder house. It's so weird.
A murder house. There you go, Des. You got to visit that place.
I know, but that's a nice house. I'd just probably fill the fucking wine cooler, like wine cellar, and just make it a concrete room. Just lock that door and
you can rent that thing out. Probably people.
You can make it. Oh my gosh. You can make an escape room out of that basement.
Oh,
that would be good. Anyway,
escape room. First, you get like duct tape around your wrist, and then you have to figure out how to get out.
In a garage. That's terrible. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Anyway, next mystery.
All right, it's back to you, Jack.
Well, shit. Now I don't know because the whole John Benet Ramsey case makes me think of like Casey Anthony. Like, do you guys
Mhm.
remember that
Oh,
case?
Yeah.
okay. Who do you think she killed her daughter?
Oh, I totally think she killed
Didn't
her
she?
daughter.
I think the dad did.
No way.
Listen, and here's why. Here's why. Okay, there is that new documentary she just did, that like Casey Anthony one. You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
that
That
she
she
made.
did. Yes. The whole time I'm like, okay, yeah. Meh, 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 meh.
Right.
There is a specific part in there that where at the little girl's funeral or whatever, how the dad is like giving a speech, like the eulogy or whatever. But the way he was talking, like they played the recording of it, literally gave me fucking chill. Like I usually don't have visceral reactions to stuff, but the way he was saying things gave me it made me feel gross, and it literally gave me goosebumps, and I couldn't. I was just like, oh my god, he fucking did it. Like, yeah, okay,
Yeah, but
Casey, I might believe you.
Wasn't
well,
Casey the same way with the way her behavior?
Well, this as the story goes is Casey like says that her dad was like sexually assaulting her for years, and then basically he was doing the same thing to the little girl, and that's kind of what happened, and
oh,
he ended up
okay. Yeah,
killing
that
her
explains.
inadvertently.
No, I don't even want to get into
No,
this case, but because
listen, watch it. I know it's like a
it's her documentary. She made it.
I understand that, but they played that recording of him actually talk, like the
Okay,
video of him.
she made him. She said he molested me as a kid, and then they slow-mo played the audio. Like, I honestly think she killed her kid, and then she pinned it on the parents. But
Hmm.
that's just, I don't know.
So you think it was Casey's dad, not the daughter's dad?
I
Just to
don't
be
even think
clear.
we know who the daughter's dad is. I don't even think she
Oh,
knows
No,
who's the
all
daughter's
right.
dad
yeah,
is.
no,
Okay, so her
yeah,
father.
they
Okay.
fabricated a whole story in court about though must have been her dad, must have been the granddad. It was like, okay, they made it up, but it worked.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, but no, the one that actually came to mind, and again, I didn't research it, but we all know what it was because it was just 4 years ago. Was the what I call the unsolved murder of Jeffrey Epstein.
Good one.
Now, the reason why it still fascinates me, and I thought about it because I'm like, okay, well, what do we know about him? We all know the same stories. He kind of hobnobbed with millionaire and billionaires, and he made his fortune, in finance. And they played that up like, okay, and so he knew all these people, and then more came out. But the guy literally had a black book, and he actually owned an island, and they were committing, mass sexual molestations against young girls, and power players were involved. And like we heard just that. And what fascinates me is like, okay, so then he gets locked up. They are in, and there's more to that. There's more to that, that layer of the cake. But what amazes me is like even that the fact that we even know about that. Like we knew about this guy, like once he was locked up, like the allegations of where this goes. And so they gave us just those crumbs. And then the guy gets locked up. And on one night, he's in a cell by himself. And at this particular moment, the cameras stop working. The security guards fall asleep. And he hangs himself with cotton jailhouse issued bed sheets in a cell that, couldn't even house someone who's 7 feet tall, probably. What I find more fascinating is the fact that now we don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Because that if somebody told you that this is what the world was informed of, and then this ludicrous death happened to the guy that's completely unexplainable. There's no way to explain it. It's
Yeah.
just it's beyond possibility. And we've just now Jeffrey Epstein is like a verb, and
Get
and
Epstein.
nobody cares. And so that's why to me it's this amazing unsolved mystery, because it's kind of like how is that possible? Like,
So I think
how is no one investigating every aspect of this?
because no one
And
cares about him
and
because
if
he had the island with his little kids. That's why.
his death was impossible. The ramifications of his testimony were staggering.
Yeah.
And what blows my mind is that they gave us enough facts. Oh, by the way, cameras died, guys were asleep, he's in a cell by himself, and
Yeah, he was
he's
killed. I mean, that's not.
well, that's what's
By who, though?
fascinating. It's an unsolved mystery because they're telling the world, oh, he killed himself. That was the coroner's report, I
Right.
guess. That's what they
I think he
told us.
could have.
And we're not still amazed. Like, I'm so amazed by just that story and how dumb everybody actually is.
Well, it's
Okay,
it's
I
also,
don't think it's dumb. This is what I think. Okay, so you know how um, you guys have daughters. If somebody did something to your daughter that was sexually motivated, and you go and murder, or no, and murder the guy that did it.
I don't
so
know if
people
I
knew
would
about it.
murder them, but I would definitely Epstein them.
Maybe they might
Or-
just
or
look the other way,
Afghanistan them.
and then your friends would look the other way about
No,
it. Like, yeah, that might have been wrong, but
Yeah.
It's not
probably
a
the right
matter.
thing to do.
It's not a matter of was he killed or not. Like, the thing is, he was in a cell by himself.
Mhm.
There's no way to see what happened,
It was
and
the
he died.
power.
And he died of suicide.
He
Like that.
he-
But that's what I'm saying. Like, everyone's just looking the other way
but
because
it's
they
who?
don't.
No,
It's
I think it's
I don't
possible.
I don't
'Cause
think it was a dad of one of the girls. I think
Yeah,
it was
he's
like
in
one
a
of the numerous
Des,
people that he could
Des,
drop
he's
the
in a-
dime on at any moment. I think Giselle's black book and all that stuff.
No, remember Nuremberg?
You guys aren't getting what I'm
'Cause
saying.
a lot of the Nazis, well, not a lot of them, but a few of them did commit suicide in the cells. You can do it like sitting down on the. They would sit in the toilet, which was like in the corner, and then have like the bed sheet behind them, and then you just kind of lean forward.
Yeah,
So
Tom.
it doesn't need to be like a high ceiling, Jack.
Tom. What about the guards being asleep and the cameras suddenly
It's
not
the government,
working?
Jack. Believe
cameras,
me. We
they
talked
never
about
work.
this with
They
the
record.
election cameras. The cameras don't work half the time.
And that's in
It's a
every case,
nighttime.
literally.
People are sleeping,
Okay,
doing
so
two
that's
jobs. I
so.
can see all of that as being 100% plausible.
Oh, there's no way.
This
You don't
guy-
think government
Yeah,
workers just sleep on the
surveillance
job?
cameras. Do you want to know how many times there's been a case of like, well, there was a camera, there's got
Well, you guys are making.
what do you know?
No, you guys are making my point. The cameras didn't work. Like, really? Like,
that
that's like
happens so many times though.
No, but that's like 9/11. Like, we have no real footage of anything happening
it's a
at the
total
Pentagon
lie.
because
We have
none of the
footage of
cameras
the
were on.
Exactly.
planes
None of the
going-
cameras were on. Or they didn't record or some shit. But
I
that's
could
what
say
I'm
if
saying.
you
Like,
tested
looking,
all the government cameras across the country, probably 40% of them would not be working right now.
or they don't record. A lot of it is they don't record.
Yeah, just for that point where he died, I'm not buying it. I can't.
the
I
people-
can't.
The
I
people,
can't. And whatever happened to the prison guards that fell asleep? Weren't they prosecuted? Like, what happened to them?
I think they killed themselves in a cell.
But no one's following that.
But
no
it's
one's
too
working
complicated.
on a book.
If it was like another inmate, so if they just unlocked the door and somebody went in and killed them and then left, they wouldn't have like did it so intricate that they're like putting the bed sheets, and they would have just left them lying on the floor. So you're saying it was a
The whole thing is staged. He committed suicide was the actual official cause of death.
He ran around with incredibly powerful people. They were beyond A-list. These were people in government, high
people that
finance,
had money that could bribe.
lots of money. I mean,
That could
captains
bribe
of
an inmate to-
industry,
yeah.
presidents of countries. I mean, this wasn't. There's a lot
Thank
of power.
you, Mike. Thank
And
you.
I think his business, Jeffrey Epstein business. He on paper he was what like a
Investor
fund
or something.
investor, what? But his real business was influence and knowledge and getting people what they want. that may be distasteful, I have my own little private island. And so I'm sure he had favors flying back and forth and people that compromising information. Even when they prosecuted Giselle, wasn't like that part of the thing where they were bringing up where he would zero in on somebody and like get them to come to his house or do whatever, and he would kind of like build this trust and get compromising information on them, and then kind of like parlay that to favors and money. And I mean, didn't that come out during her trial?
Yeah, no, but Mike, that's kind of what I'm getting at too, with the mystery of it. Like we're talking about him like he was this real person who did these things.
He was.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but like, how we're always hearing about false flags and psyops and things like that. If you look up Jeffrey Epstein's, like even his wiki, and you look at his early childhood and career, like they know nothing about him. Like his early childhood is written like the intro to like like Once Upon a Time in America. He was a young Jewish kid from Brooklyn. His high school buddies called him Big Meat or whatever. Like they know nothing about him. There's nothing really corroborating at all. And you would think that there would be more. It's almost like his entire what we know about him is not enough. It's just not enough. Like we should know more about this guy at this point.
I get what you're saying, Jack. I remember one time just being like asking Craig, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I mean, you hear his name, it's not like you hadn't heard his name before all this, but it's like, what did he do? Like he was a hedge fund fucking opera.
We know he was like he was kicked out of school. He claimed to have degrees he didn't have. He psychologically knew how to work people in every way to get the money he suddenly, that he had, and to influence these power players. Like he sounds like a ghost. Like he doesn't sound like he could be a real person at all to me. Like I don't know, maybe it's me. Like it just sounds almost like far-fetched. It sounds, like
creepy.
So that's a mystery.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Let's go. We're gonna move on.
I think that 75% of the world knows that guy was murdered, but are choosing to look the other way. That's what I think.
Okay, who's next, Tom?
I think
I was gonna throw it to Mike for his number 2 mystery.
So this is my number 2 mystery. So this is a mystery regarding what happened to this young lady, Elisa Lam. I think she's from Hong Kong originally. So she was staying in Los Angeles at a hotel, not a great hotel, not a horrible hotel.
Yeah, she was on Skid Row.
No. Do you know the story? No, it wasn't.
Story.
You do? No?
Yeah.
Okay. So she, I don't think it was Skid Row, was it?
Yeah, that hotel is definitely on Skid Row.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just looking at a picture of it. I was like, it doesn't
What's
look
it called?
The Stay on the Main. It's called
Skid
The Stay
Row.
on the Main. So she on the 31st, her family
The Cecil Hotel is what it is.
Oh, the Cecil. She went missing on the 31st, and nobody really knew, where she was. This was on the 31st of January, 2013, and about a week and a half later, the hotel was checking their video footage, their surveillance footage, and you can see her getting in and out of an elevator, like hitting all the buttons on the elevator and like getting out, getting in. And then she like gets out and the door closes. So they knew she was alive then.
And she makes some weird movements, like she's moving weirdly.
Yeah, she's moving kind of weirdly. So fast forward about another week. This is about 3 weeks after she disappeared. And there were like tenants or people staying in the building at the hotel that were complaining that they had low water pressure. And I don't mean to laugh. And the like black, like this weird discolored water coming out of the faucets and stuff like that. So they sent on February 19th, they sent a maintenance guy up to check one of these water tanks that were up on the roof. There's 4 of them up there. They're about 6 feet wide and 8 feet tall each, with a lid on the top. And he looked down in there, and she was in there. She was a floater, had been in there for a while. Now the thing is, I won't get into all the ins and outs, but there's still a lot of mystery about what happened to this. Like getting to the roof was not particularly easy to do. Like, why would she do that? Climbing up onto the top of one of these tanks, like you needed a ladder just to even get up there. The lids are very heavy to open. Anyway, it's just, I remember when the story broke, because I was like, when I heard about the water pressure and the discolored water and the fact that people were staying in this place for
and like showering in dead body water.
and,
Ugh.
and brushing their
making
brushing
their
their
coffee.
teeth.
Oh,
Gosh.
It's it's now it makes sense more, I guess. If it wasn't downtown LA, I didn't know it was in Skid Row. But yeah, just if
the
you
old Cecil Hotel.
if you watch the elevator footage and everything else, it's just like there's something that's not right
Very
about
creepy.
this.
Mhm.
Like the
Like
and
paranormal activity or something.
well, she was highly regarded by friends and family. You know, she wasn't like in any kind of trouble. She was leaving LA soon to go visit some other people. It just doesn't. There's no alcohol and no illicit drugs in her system.
And on the video, wasn't she seeing? She was like kind of looking out the elevator.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Down
She was
the
like looking
hallway.
out and hiding back in the corner and like pushing all the buttons and like
there was
doing
somebody
weird shit.
else coming or something.
It was very strange, and I'll leave it at that, because I'm definitely not an expert.
Hey, Mike, do you know this? What year was this?
Not very long ago.
10 years, 2013.
2013. Now, that's strange, because it sounds kind of like there was this, I think it's a Japanese horror movie called
Dark Water.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that reference that movie. I think that was from like 2009 or something.
Yeah. That's what's so weird about
it's
this.
Very similar to that.
You're telling this story, which I didn't know, and I see the pictures of the tanks behind you, and I'm like, and she's Asian. So I'm putting it all in my head, and I'm like, that's that movie. Like, that's
a whole, when I was reading about this, there's a whole other line of conspiracies that relate to that movie. So
do you think, what do you think happened? Do you think she was murdered, or?
So
you gotta see the movie, guys.
No, we're talking about Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the one thing, and I don't really know, but if I had to guess, I think she probably found her way up there. Oh, he's got the popcorn going. Nice.
I had to bring my popcorn.
Yes, that's great. So she was on antidepressants and things like that, and initially they were like, they when they did tests on her and like reviewing her prescriptions in the bottles, they didn't find her overdosing on anything, but they think she was underdosing.
Mm-hmm.
So she could have been having some kind of episode. I mean, she was diagnosed as bipolar, and on the autopsy, they listed it as an accident with bipolar disorder as a significant contributing factor. They didn't find stab wounds or anything like that, but I don't know. I mean, either an episode or some sort of paranormal thing, or, I mean, the fact that it did look like she was hiding from somebody.
She was on Wellbutrin, Lamictal, Seroquel, Dexedrine, and Effexor.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I think Michael was saying that she was not taking her medicine.
Yeah, she was underdosing.
Okay.
From what when they said in the autopsy. But the thing is, here's the thing, if you were going to attack someone, like if someone was chasing her and say they killed her or whatever, you're in this multi-story building in downtown Los Angeles. Where do you hide the body? I mean, it seems like if you're gonna hide, I mean, that would be a pretty good spot. I mean, people aren't gonna be looking in there anytime soon.
So wait, what did they determine the cause of death to be? Was she mutilated?
No, she wasn't. She was.
Then why
decomposition had?
No, I'm saying, why not just suicide then? Like, why all the theories that it's something else?
I don't know, because I think there was at one point when I had this really good theory about what happened, like that she had climbed up on one of those tanks, because I do believe that there was a ladder that was left up against one of the tanks.
Yeah, there's a ladder and you're fucked up on medication.
You go up on there, and then she opened one of those lids, because those lids aren't that heavy. Like,
I heard they were,
you can open it from the outside. So you open it, put your head in there, kind of look, and I was like, maybe the thing just came down and like hit her and bumped her in, and then you can't open it from the inside at all because of like the seal.
Well, they did. It was open. The maintenance worker said the lid was open, which is the reason he was climbing up there.
Yeah, as an
that's why he
unlocked,
picked
like
that
didn't
one
have a
first.
lock on it. Like it was unlocked, but you still, it doesn't matter. You still can't, the way it seals, you can't open it from the inside. Like, because there's no way to like get enough leverage
in the water,
deep to like push it up.
Yeah.
Enough. So I don't know.
Wait a minute. Mike, did you see the movie or no?
No, I haven't. I know about it, and when I was reading up on this, they kept mentioning it. But I remember the movie, but I never saw it.
Yeah, no, I would check. It's actually a good movie. It's not bad.
Yeah, I'll have to check. And
it'll provide an explanation. It's beyond this world.
Maybe that's what it was. When we were talking about doing mysteries, this was the first one that popped in my mind, and it was because of the tenants in the building brushing their teeth with corpse water for 3 weeks. That's the one. Yeah. It's a
great story.
When I get old and I have like amnesia and I have like, or I'm senile, I'm going to remember like Hershey bars and this story
and corpse water.
This is burned in my head. I will never forget it.
Every time, you notice how sometimes you get stinky water, like places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have to watch. Now you have to watch the movie, Mike.
I will. I'm going to.
And you got to go up to the roof and check inside the water tank
before
swim in there a little bit to make sure if anything's in there.
I don't mean that. I'm laughing because I'm just so horrified.
Yeah, it's nauseating.
That's a terrible
All right,
story.
You're up, Tom.
Okay, next up for me, D.B. Cooper.
Nice.
Another one of my favorite stories, and this is another. So this is unsolved all these years later. So D.B. Cooper was a hijacking story. So I'm going to go through the still unsolved.
Wasn't he just like a guy? Like nothing even like cool about him, just a dude?
I think he's pretty
decided
cool.
to. Well, I mean, I know he did this, but like before all that, like he didn't do anything prior. Or do we know?
Well, nobody knows because they never identified who he was.
Oh, okay.
So we don't know. He might have did some other cool ass things. Some people think he's probably ex-military or something. So anyway, let me give you the quick story, and then we can get into some theories. But so 1971, Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971, a man carrying a black attaché case went up to the flight counter at Northwest Orient Airlines in Portland. Using cash, he bought a one-way ticket on Flight 305. It's a 30-minute flight only to Seattle-Tacoma Airport, SeaTac. On the ticket, he gave his name as Dan Cooper, but somebody mistranscribed it as D.B. Cooper later in the newspaper. That's where the famous name D.B. Cooper comes from. But it was actually Dan Cooper was the name that he gave. We don't know if that's his real name or not. So they described him as a white male, mid-40s, dark hair, brown eyes. He was just wearing like a black business suit with a white shirt and a thin black tie, a raincoat, and brown shoes. He was carrying this briefcase and a brown paper bag. He got on board the airplane. He sat all the way in the last row, 18E, and he ordered a drink, bourbon and 7-Up. Maybe he was the Poe toaster. Bourbon and 7-Up.
Let me get a 7 and 7A.
Yeah, so there was only 37 people were on the flight. I always think of it as a smaller plane, but it actually looks like a regular.
I think it's a DC-10.
Yeah, not a very small plane, but only 37 people on board and then a crew of 6. So as soon as they took off, remember, he's sitting in the last row in the back. He gave a note to the flight attendant who was sitting in the jump seat right behind him, like, where the stewardesses sit back there with the little cart. And she thought it was just another businessman flirting with her. So she just threw the note into her purse and didn't look at it. And a little while later, he says, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Ooh. So the stewardess opened the note, and in all capital letters, it was written, "Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase, and I want you to sit by me. So she came over and sat down next to him, and she asked to see the bomb.
That's
He
quite a
opened his
pickup line.
briefcase. What?
See, in my head, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't care if I sit next to you or not. We're still blowing up. Seduces. Not
Well,
sitting by
you might think, okay, maybe he's either fooling with me or he's faking it. He doesn't really have a bomb. But she says she wants to see it. She gave the note back to him. And he opened up the briefcase and saw like two rows of 4 red cylinders, and she thought it was dynamite, and there was wire and a large battery was in there. So he told her what his demands were. She wrote a note about the demands and took it up to the cockpit. The captain told her to remain with them in the cockpit. His request was for $200,000 in a knapsack and for 2 front parachutes, 2 back parachutes. So he was very knowledgeable about parachutes. And if people that go into the lore of the D.B. Cooper story, he must have experience with parachutes. Also, the type of plane that they were on, it was a very unique type of plane that had a special door in the back of the plane where it would go lower down, and it could lower down in flight where somebody could parachute off the back.
Like a military plane does?
No, well, I mean, it was a passenger airline.
Yeah, it had a ramp.
Well, I know that,
loading
but
ramp.
like military planes do, they just go,
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. So they landed. I'm not going to go through the whole story. This is going to take up too much time. But anyway, they landed. They got the money. They gave him the money, gave him his backpacks. They took off again, I think they were headed further south. And it's somewhere along the flight, on the second flight, he jumped out the back of the airplane, and it was never seen again since that day. Now, the only thing they ever recovered was they did recover like a little bit of some of the money along the Columbia River, but nothing else with it really. And they never found any trace of the man, what happened to him, if he died, if he survived that jump or not. Remember, he jumped at nighttime, and I think it was raining, like when he jumped at nighttime. But I always thought it was like a fascinating story. I've seen like lots of documentaries on this. There's been different suspects, lots of books written on this, but nobody's ever really definitively solved this mystery.
Didn't with the parachutes, didn't he ask for 4 because he was gonna have some people go with him? And that's why he was
that's a
trying to
good point. So
make
that's
sure it
why, and they think maybe because there's a threat that he would take somebody with him, like the stewardess. So they theorize that means, because they could have just given him a dummy parachute. If he had just asked for 1 parachute, they could have given him one that didn't work, and then he would die and they'd recover everything. But if he asked for 4 parachutes, now they think, okay, he might take somebody else with him, so we can't give him a dummy parachute. They've got to give him legit parachutes. So they think that's why he asked for multiples.
It's crazy.
It's a very well thought out.
You would think that they would be like, okay, the guy jumps, the pilot goes, all right, Eagle's flown the coop.
Mm-hmm.
And then wherever like they are coordinate wise, they just go and stand in like the drop zone, waiting for him to come down. You would think they would have done that, but they didn't.
I think you can kind of get like a range of where he probably landed, but
that's what I'm saying. How come they didn't, like I said, guy jumps, pilot's like, all right, flown the coop. And then they just go, because it takes a minute to get to the ground.
I don't think,
doesn't it?
They didn't know exactly when he jumped. I mean, people said that later that they felt like a little bit of a lurch in the plane, like something, like some weight dropped off the back. But everybody was like, a guy behind you's got a bomb. You're looking straight ahead. You don't want to do anything. So I don't think anybody was like watching him when he jumped. So I don't think they knew the exact second that he jumped. And it was at
Mhm.
nighttime, so they couldn't
Mhm.
see.
And it was kind of an unpopulated area,
Yeah.
if I remember.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like the police could be like right there. I think it was kind of like wilderness
Yeah, it was in
where
like
he jumped out.
yeah.
But yeah, he had no gear, right? He was wearing a suit.
Yeah,
He
he's
wasn't
wearing like
dressed for the weather.
yeah.
It's Thanksgiving, so it's cold, you know. But the thing is to plan so well to ask for 4 parachutes and do all that other stuff and not take into account the weather, it just seems weird.
Well, they didn't find a body.
They didn't find a body. He may have
So
had an accomplice.
I mean, if you've got that kind of military skills, like a Ranger, Navy SEAL or something, you could probably survive.
And the
Just a
money
coat.
never turned up, other than what they found. They found some bundles of it in the bank of the river, like I think in the early aughts,
Yeah.
you know. But I've heard other people on this case say too, it's like, well, wouldn't he know it was marked money? It's like, yeah, but if it's marked money, I mean, if you're working in the U.S. banking system, alerts are going to go out looking for these. But if you hop on a boat or go to China or
You guys
whatever,
don't think it might be like another psyop?
to what end do you think?
Maybe to bump up restrictions, like security restrictions at
Ah,
airports and the like.
hmm,
I'm sure
hmm.
they did after that.
Checking baggage.
Yeah, just what you're bringing on.
Scanning checked baggage.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, if the guy was so skilled that he parachuted out of a plane in the middle of a rainy night over, wherever you said it was, wearing a suit, he sounds like, John Wayne or some kind of Navy
Right.
SEAL or something. He'd have to be pretty good at doing it. And
Yeah.
then there's no body and there's no money. Maybe the government got something. I mean, I don't know. Because now I'm so suspect of it that now I think everything since Kennedy is probably in some way
Probably a hoax. Never even happened.
probably
They
a
just made the
lie
shit
of
up
some kind.
for
So
news
that's
to
where
cover
my
something else
brain
up.
went.
That's a good theory.
Who's next?
That's it.
I think I'm next. Okay.
Does.
My next one is the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, of course.
Oh.
Listen, I want to go to Bermuda really bad. I hear it's beautiful. Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's okay. You been there?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
nice. It was nice, but it wasn't as warm as I'd like to. I'd rather go to like the
Well, it's a
Bahamas
little
or
north,
something.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's a little north.
Well, I mean, don't they
Yeah.
have pink sand?
Yeah, okay. I guess you might. Yeah, you'd think it's beautiful. I just want to be
Yeah.
hot. But go ahead, tell us about the
Anyway,
Bermuda Triangle.
the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, so this is a triangle that is like Florida to Bermuda down to Puerto Rico and over in a triangular shape. This mystery goes back to 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Nice.
He apparently wrote in his diary that in this vicinity of this triangle, in this area, somewheres, he like got his ship all like caught up in like killer seaweed, like really, really strong algae that like was so dense that
Like
it
the
was really hard
Sargasso
to,
Sea.
yeah, it was hard
Or
for them to like move
Syracuse.
the propellers
Yeah.
or whatever. So that's the very first legend out there. Since then, over the hundreds and thousands of years, there's been several weird things that happen in the Bermuda Triangle, like disappearing boats, disappearing ships. And just how come? Why did everyone disappear in the Bermuda Triangle? This is one of those mysteries where it's like, yes, it's a mystery, but also there's a lot of things that could explain it. But it's still crazy to talk about.
Things still happen.
And things still happen. So there's like a list of different things, theories, but I think they all kind of play together. So this area, I mean, that's right where all the Caribbean islands are, like right there. See? And so a lot of people travel there, like a lot of planes, a lot of boats, a lot of, shipping vessels, a lot of things are in this area passing through. So just the sheer volume.
High traffic.
They say that statistically there's no more things that had no more plane and boat accidents that happen here than anywhere else on the ocean. But because when you could talk about statistic wise, because of the volume of traffic. It just seems like more. So there's that, and plus, so there's like the weird seaweed thing. There's also an area there, I don't know exactly where it's at, that is a source of like hydrogen gas and methane gas bubbles that like bubble up through the ocean floor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. And then also they create those somehow, I'm not a scientist, but those gas bubbles, if they don't escape, they can create like a sinkhole that I guess causes like a pulling force from the surface that can like suck ships down. I don't know if I really that one doesn't. Okay.
A lot of
Actually, no,
hurricanes go through there.
It works. You can try it. When the bubbles come up, what it does is it destroys the buoyancy of the ship, because ships float because the water they displace weighs more
The density.
than the boat weighs, than the part that's being displaced. So when you fill the water with air, it decreases the weight of that water that's being displaced,
and so they just right, but
just
like
sinks.
so what that didn't that happen? That's only one spot. There's like a bunch of spots. Is there where they have these
Yeah, no, I've heard that theory.
bubbling seas?
But then how does it get planes? It's like they lost
Yeah,
the
so how does it get planes?
Yeah.
A6 Texans, and then they sent the search plane to find them, and that
And all 5 of them
disappeared too.
search planes disappeared. Yeah. So the other theory is like because of hurricanes, like Tom was saying. So this is like so you know how we have Tornado Alley? This is like Hurricane Alley. So a lot of like, first of all, everyone knows this, but all the hurricanes come off the coast of Africa because the winds.
It's where the
So
butterflies
they blow off of Africa and they spin up kind of outside of this triangle area, but they kind of strengthen and kind of start to move and do different directions, and then eventually either hit Florida or go north in this area right here. And so a lot of them spin up. There could be multiple at a time, and if they come together, they can create like huge waves. There's also this thing called rogue waves which don't necessarily have to do with hurricanes, but they're like 100-foot waves that just happen, I guess, in the middle of the ocean, whatever. But I think the best theory that is most believable within the area is that Bermuda, the island itself, like it was, islands are made from like, volcanoes and lava and stuff. Well, this one, Bermuda is made from the lava that it's like the second layer of magma from the Earth's, like that's super close to the Earth's core.
Oh,
And all the other islands are made from like the first layer of magma. But because of that, the magma is very, very, very magnetic. And so it changes like the magnetic fields, that it shows like a true north instead of a magnetic north in this area. It messes up compasses and specifically altimeters. So if you have an altimeter, it'll be like, pull up, pull up, pull up. Or maybe it won't say that, and you need to be pulling up because you're about to hit the ocean or whatever it might say. Also, pilots have said that when they fly through this area, if it's like foggy, that the magnetic like particles in the air will like almost time warp them, and they'll be, when they get out of the fog, like they're 45 minutes ahead of schedule and are about to land in Miami. Like they're like, how did that happen? Like there should not be a reason that I have like jetted through time
warp or something.
Yeah. So there's just a bunch of stuff that kind of goes into that Bermuda Triangle theory, but I think everything kind of just works together like a perfect storm of situations that happened specifically in this one area that just, causes a shitstorm for ships and planes. A shitstorm. But I don't know. Cool. Yeah, that's cool that you've been to Bermuda though. Jack, that's cool.
Yeah, no, the Bermuda Triangle, I just remember from being a kid hearing these stories of like vessels disappearing and airplanes disappearing. And, I remember like as a kid, I was fascinated that they were all like abducted or something. Like, I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, like there's a wormhole or something that just opens up and just.
Yeah, or like aliens just hovered around. Like it always, and then as I got older, I was like, well, if this is such a treacherous, hazardous place, like wouldn't they just stop
going through there?
They would alter like, the routes and be like, look,
you got to go round.
Yeah, it's just so I just chalked it up to like urban legend, but maybe it's got to have some basis in historical fact. So it's kind of fascinating, I guess.
There is a theory that you know how we've said a couple episodes ago how maybe aliens don't come from outer space, they just maybe come from the ocean.
Yeah,
Well, like so where those gas bubbles are coming up, like that's like the alien portal from the Earth's core.
It's alien parts.
But come on. It's probably underground volcano.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, I like
apparently
the
Atlantis
stuff.
is sunken in there somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, see that's cool.
Yeah.
Probably a combination of all that stuff. Hurricanes, the water.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just
the
combo
air.
The Gulf
everything.
Stream goes right up there.
The Gulf
Yeah.
Stream,
Gulf Stream,
causing
yeah.
them
and
rogue
just the
waves.
high traffic.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go next year. I'm gonna be going to. Well, I'm going to Bahamas in October, and then in May I'm going to the Dominican Republic. So hopefully I don't die in the Bermuda Triangle.
Aren't they having issues down in the Dominican right now?
They always having issues.
Didn't they like
Yeah, you
close
gotta
the
stay
border
on the
with
resort.
Haiti or something? Yeah.
Well, they should always look. I mean, that isn't that weird how like they share the island, but like those are two very different countries.
Yeah. It is weird. No, it is weird. All right, Jack, you're up, brother.
Oh, well, again, I'm kind of interested in this one because like I remember I was really young and there was this movie about this guy and it was called The Man Who Saw Tomorrow and it was hosted by Orson Welles. And then they would kind of reenact the different things that he was talking about and he would read from the pages and I was just fascinated by it because of some of the shit that it predicted that hadn't happened in my life yet. And so I was terrified growing up. 80s was all about the Cold War, nuclear war, the end of the world, all that shit. And I was hip to this guy. His name is Nostradamus. And Nostradamus was this semi-educated scholar from like the 1500s. So we're talking, you know, 500 years ago, or it's, if I get my math right, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's more than that, but he wrote this book. I guess it was like they're called quadraints, and so he wrote this, like, if you look at it, it translates as bad poetry, really. Like you wonder why it caught anybody's eye contemporary, when he was writing and after contemporaneously. And I guess what people started to figure out is his writings were studied as more events were happening that people were, had translated. And it's an unsolved mystery because I still don't get it. Like I don't get I at least believe that this was a person that existed and they have the writings. It's kind of like saying I believe in the writings of the Bible. It happened a long time ago. I'm taking at least that part, that this is the written word. This man existed and he wrote these quadraints. And so once I accept that, the guy predicted very specific historical events that obviously came after him. He predicted Napoleon, he predicted the French Revolution before that, he predicted Hitler. He predicted 9/11. I mean, these are all interpretations of his language, but they at least have it down to some, like, it boggles my mind. Like it makes me have some kind of faith in the non-secular because like I believe it to that point. Like, wow, this is kind of a miracle. That's and I know it's been debunked, so have at it. That's just why I think it's interesting.
It's been debunked?
No, I mean
I think so.
Yeah, there are people that think it's bullshit, of course.
Was he known and famous in his own time, or did it come? Do you know, or did it come?
No,
later?
I don't know. To me, it's an interesting unsolved mystery because I've never been able to. As far as the man, I know that I think he flunked out of school because he was basically he was acting as a doctor when he wasn't a doctor technically, and
You'd
I
think
guess
you would have seen that coming.
Yeah, right. And I guess he got booted out for that. That's what I remember.
And I don't know if I'm mixing him up with someone else, but I think he had whatever his life was, and something happened, or he went somewhere, or spent, and it had kind of a sudden onset. Like it wasn't over time. Like he started making these writings like at a
Oh,
specific point in his life and
yeah,
forward.
I don't know. I know that I know his family died of the plague, and then he almost died. Um, I don't remember him having the road to Damascus moment, Mike, but if that's what's reported, it kind of builds on the legend, I guess.
I may be mixing him up with someone, but yeah, I think he had it. There was some compulsiveness to it. I think it wasn't, he was kind of driven.
Right. Well, that just adds to it. I mean, that's cool.
The one about Hitler, I thought was always that was the most impressive one
He was
to me
off by
because
a
he came
letter.
up with he called him Hister,
Yeah.
Wow,
but that was very close.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah,
any other shit that's in them predictions that maybe just hasn't happened yet? We need to be aware of.
Well, yeah, he talks about what being interpreted as nuclear weapons, but you could argue maybe that happened already
Chernobyl.
in the 40s, right? I mean,
yeah.
if you want to be hopeful, there's some talk about what's interpreted as visitors from the stars,
Mm.
kind of uniting things. So that's hopeful, I guess, depending on your point of view. And then those are the two I can think of, but I remember like the 9/11 thing when it happened, I was already like this kid who was a Nostradamus sort of geek because of this stupid movie that I saw. And there were a lot of references they talk about in the film too about the new city, which is obviously translated to mean New York, and it
Hmm.
being attacked. And he doesn't call them the two towers, but he's got a phrasing for these two sort of twin objects.
Appendages.
No, I mean like it's when you read it as a bad poem, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
and you just there it is, and now it's happened already. So I remember when the Twin Towers fell, I was like, oh shit, and I broke out my Nostradamus book just to remind myself. I'm like, oh fuck, yeah, there it was, the new city. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I just think it's pretty fascinating, and again, if you accept the legitimacy of this guy existing, and writing this stuff.
I mean, and was he did he time travel himself? Was he picking this up from someone telling him? Was
Well,
he like tapping into, what do they call that? The Akashic record, I don't know if you guys have ever heard about that. It's like a information source that all people can tap into through like meditation. That's sort of like the Wikipedia of the universe or whatever. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm paraphrasing, but there's a lot of people that believe in predicting the future and seers and all that stuff, that they're kind of like tapping
yeah,
into
psychics.
that
Yeah, but then
force.
also some people could look at it as like
Akashic.
If you're a Catholic and you're raised with all the stories of the dead rising and saints and angels and all of that, and then you read about some person who laid all this stuff out that you can interpret as actually having happened. If you can accept all the other stuff,
Yeah.
then you can probably accept that this guy had visions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not so believe me, I was just sitting there waiting to take the bait as a little Catholic kid watching this thing. But
It is cool. I mean, it is
yeah, but
compelling.
yeah, I didn't think of it as sacrilegious. I was like, oh, there he's another one, whatever. He got touched.
All
What
right.
do you
Well,
got, Tom? What do you got?
I think
I'm
Mike.
yeah, this I guess is the
Oh,
last
you're up, Mike.
round here. This one is going to be kind of quick because I'm still learning about it. Just learned about it today, and we were already talking about doing this show, and I just happened to catch this story about this guy who's let out of jail, or he's getting out of jail or whatever, and it was like I like read, and it was like there was a fire at his house where this guy died. And the owner, this guy who's getting out of jail, was charged with like depraved, what do they call that? Depraved something manslaughter. And that it was all had to do with these tunnels under the house. So bing, like my spidey sense went up, and I was like, deep dive, tunnels under a house. I'm in this story. And so this house, just like the one that Des found, the triple murder house that's like 10 minutes from me.
Mm-hmm.
This house in the background is a picture of when the fire happened, from in the fire department there. He's like 14 minutes from me. I passed this road today on my way home before I read this, which was hilarious to me. But anyway, long story short, this is the house he grew up in, lived there with his parents. His mom died, his dad dies. He's 26. He's kind of eccentric. He inherited $2.5 million in a trust when his parents died. And just to show, in Bethesda, Maryland, that's what $2.5 million gets you, is this house.
Wow.
But I don't know, it's probably not worth that much. But anyway, so he got the house, and he was in Reddit and 4chan, and he hung out with like people that were trying to get investors, venture capitalists for like tech company ideas and all this stuff. And he invested in this company started by a guy in Silver Spring, which is where I live. And the thing went bust. And in order to help pay back, he was digging this catacomb under this house for this guy. This guy wanted to build something, and that's the mystery. What in the world is going on? The cover story was he was trying to build like a fallout shelter because he was afraid that North Korea was going to bomb Washington, D.C. But the elaborateness, this thing went down, he jacked up the concrete in the floor, went down 20 feet into the earth, and the tunnels in this thing go out as far as 100 feet from this central point. And there's all these rooms and things, and it was
wait a minute,
apparently.
Can you back up a second?
Yeah.
So who's digging, and what was
so
the investor?
Yeah, the investor owns the house. He gave money to this guy that lived in Silver Spring for his business. It went belly up, and so
he owed a lot of money.
Yeah, in order to pay it back.
Yeah.
This is what the guy's family
guy come
said.
over to his house and dig some tunnels.
And dig these tunnels.
with shovels.
But when he got there,
with shovels,
when this guy got there, their tunnels were already well established, and they were expanding out. Now there's houses 20 feet on either side of this house.
I was going to say, the tunnels actually encroach onto other.
Well, he's already 20 feet below
How
the basement.
How far down?
So he's
30... Does your land that you own go?
I don't know.
All right, so he's 30 feet below.
He's 30 feet below grade because he's 10 feet down in the basement, and he's 20 feet down from the basement floor. So he's 30 feet below where the firemen are standing, and 100 feet in all directions, or all these other tunnels. He's saying it was for a fallout shelter. Anyway, the guy's family who was digging this hole, he was communicating with his family like, yeah, man, I'm like, it's kind of cool. But he would go down there. He would send this guy down there for like a week at a time, like a week to 10 days at a time to dig. What? And he would just drop food down, and the guy pooped in a bucket, and he would just
it puts the lotion on the skin.
Yeah. And the owner would like pull the poop bucket up, put it in the toilet, throw some food down.
The fuck?
He gave him internet access. So I don't think he wasn't being held against his will.
So was there electricity down there?
So they ran some electrical wires down there. They had like microwaves, lighting, all kinds of stuff. Welding.
What was the agreement here? Wait a minute. So my company goes bust. The guy says, "Okay, you dig 100 feet worth of tunnel."
But the thing is,
was there a contract or something?
Well, no. So they found other people. The investigators found that through the years,
in the dirt,
this guy had been hiring people to come to his house and dig this hole, right? And he would dig himself as well. But they were like, man, I didn't feel comfortable because the lights would go out and this guy would like fall asleep or leave the house to go get a burrito, and I'm like trapped. Like you needed someone's help to get out, apparently.
You know what this sounds like? You know that book Holes, where they just go and dig holes for literally no reason. That's their punishment.
Well,
this is real life holes. So tunnels.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to drive by this house tomorrow because it's still there, and they haven't destroyed it. It's boarded up. You can look it up. I'll give you guys the address. It's surrounded with chain link fence with barbed wire, and it's all boarded up, and it's all overgrown. Looks like a jungle. And the article that I was reading, part of the issue is this guy's getting out, and he still owns the house. The neighborhood, it's a total eyesore. They want him to tear it down, but he may want to refurbish it.
What was he arrested for?
It's something depraved, something manslaughter. In other words, what happened was there was an electrical fire in the tunnel.
Of course there was.
This guy couldn't get out. The owner was home.
That's like his problem.
And then when the fireman showed up, he's like, "There's a guy in there," And of course, he was a crispy critter by the time they got to the guy digging the hole.
Any other normal person, they tell you not to go back in. So whatever.
I'm just saying, it's weird. And so my whole thing is, the mystery of this is, there's pictures of this you can see. I don't think it was a fallout shelter. No, there's too many other weird things going on. Like, was he trying to get into other people's houses? Like, I don't know. It's all very strange. But the county has not filled in the holes yet because anyway, they're talking about backfilling it. But you can look on Google Street View and you can see it when it was nice, and then you can see it when it's boarded up with the chain link fence.
I have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
How do you enter the whole area?
Is
there through the house? I know, but is it like in the house, or is there like a cellar that you go down in and then you go out?
You go down in the basement, which has a cement floor. They dug a hole, and then it went down, and there were like earthen steps.
So the house is just like the covering for the whole village, the tunnels, village of tunnels.
So the entrance hole is like maybe 3 by 4 feet, and then once you get down there, it's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on.
That's crazy. Did you guys ever follow the Gabby Petito murder situation?
I know about it, but I'm not super well
versed. There was somebody had come up with a fucking theory that out back in their parents' house there was like a garden area that was like sectioned off, and they're like, oh yeah, they must be digging, they have a tunnel down, and that's where they're hiding. And I'm like, that's fucking psycho. Well, this guy had a tunnel in his house.
That's where Saddam was hiding.
People done it.
In the spider hole.
So the mystery is, why the hell was he digging this hole in the first place?
Yeah, so his story.
It sounds kind of like Oak Island, right? I mean, like they thought there was something there, and they became obsessed.
The thing is, when I read, and again, I spent about an hour and a half reading up on this, like everything I could see. There's a good story in the Washingtonian from a few years ago that really explains a lot of it. But digging a fallout shelter, it just doesn't really jive with everything else about this guy. And if you're digging a fallout shelter, I've been in fallout shelters. They're not this big. Like,
he was building like a small city down there, it sounds like.
It was crazy. I'm gonna text you guys the address. I don't want to put it out on the interwebs.
I'm surprised it wouldn't flood like when there was heavy rain.
Well, they said there was times they had to muck out. There was some maintenance. Some of the tunnels would flood.
Oh my God.
But I mean, the fact that he was getting other people to do it for him. Oh, here's the other thing. The guy from Silver Spring who died in there. This guy was so secretive. He didn't want anyone to know who was doing the digging. So, and then he interviewed these people, and they all corroborated it. He would pick them up at their house or whatever. He would make them wear blackout glasses and a welding helmet, and he would drive them around whatever for like half an hour, 40 minutes, get them into the house, get them into the basement, and then they could take off the stuff. And he said that they were out by like Leesburg, Virginia. Like that's where. So the people who were digging never saw this place from the outside. They thought they were in Virginia. So like, why was he doing that? It doesn't even make any sense. And who in the world, like if someone came up to you and was like, hey, Tom, I need you to come to my house.
No, migrant workers.
A hole
Migrant
for a
workers.
week and dig a hole and poop in a Home Depot bucket with a pool noodle around it. Like, what
yeah, that sounds like human trafficking.
No, that's migrant workers now. We have
How much
that.
was he paying though? Because if he was paying handsomely, I don't know. Maybe people.
He was investing in businesses that went belly up, and then
and then
he had a lot of money.
Yeah. And people will do anything if they fucking need a money, man. They'll be like, all right, I'll go dig for 10 hours today.
But his mother, I read this one story where the guy who died, his mother was like, yeah, he'd come, like I wouldn't see him for like a week and a half, and he'd come home and immediately get into the shower, and he was like just caked in mud and dirt. I'm like, and
how does a fire burn?
How do you let him leave your house again
in a mud room?
The what?
How does a fire burn large enough?
There was stuff down there. There was like a bed. Like there's pictures of like the bed was like up against. I mean, I don't know, man. There was stuff down
elaborate. There. They should make a museum.
It's weird.
Yeah. Wow.
But the community wants to tear it down. Like I said, I got to go over there tomorrow and have a look in person.
I wouldn't so much be concerned with the house and tearing that down. You got all these tunnels down. You got to fill those in or something.
How do you do? And who fills in? Even if you want to backfill it, who's going down there?
Because you're going to get like sinkholes or something eventually.
You would think so.
Got to hire some other failed tech entrepreneurs to go down there and fill it back in.
I mean, the other reason I liked the story was I would be remiss if I didn't point out the fact that the house I lived in up in Baltimore when I was younger, I totally thought about doing this, although not hiring slave labor. But I was always like, man, what if I just dug a hole through the floor of the basement? Like, I wonder if I could do that. But then I started learning things like structural integrity and things along those lines. Decided it was not a good idea. Anyway, you're up, Tom.
All right. Well, that's a good. I never heard that story, and that's local.
It's local, yeah.
How can I look that up?
I sent you the address, and I'll send you guys a link to the article, or I'll post a link to the article in the Washingtonian from 2019.
Does he have some sort of snazzy nickname like Tunnel Man or something?
No.
You can just Google it.
His name is
now he does.
His name. Oh, here's the other thing that's this. I forgot to mention this, and then I'm sorry, not that. His name is Daniel something, and he knew and was social online, not necessarily in person, but possibly in person, with the Pharma Bro Scarelli guy.
Who's that?
The guy that he was trying to sell. He went to jail for jacking up the price of like some drug. Do you guys remember this?
No.
He bought Wu-Tang Clan's album that they only printed one copy of for like $1 million. Mark Scarelli. Anyway,
okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
All right. Interesting though, because there's been a series of Dans. So we had Daniel McInnes and my Oak Island story. Then we had Dan Cooper.
Yeah.
So and that's the third Dan. Tunnel Dan.
Tunnel
Dan.
Tunnel Dan, the biggin man.
Dan McTunnel.
It's the same guy.
It's Dan Cooper, man.
It's Jack the Ripper. My last story. So I wanted to come up with like a local story as well. So there's a story. This is from Langley, Virginia, just a few miles away from me. Let me see if I can pull up the picture. So there's this sculpture at the CIA headquarters in Langley, the George Bush Intelligence Center. Don't laugh. But they put up this sculpture. You can kind of see it behind me.
Oh yeah.
It's just basically like a bunch of letters, right? And as this is the CIA.
Did water fall through it or over it? That'd be cool.
No.
No.
But it does cast this kind of cool shadow on the ground, if I can point the right way, where you can see all the letters on the ground. But anyway, it's a so CIA, obviously, codes, ciphers. So the sculpture is has codes built into it. It's basically just a bunch of letters, but it's divided up into 4 codes. And if I can, okay, let me get to my, so it's called Kryptos. Kryptos is the name of the sculpture, and it was done by an artist named Jim Sanborn in 1990, where they put it. So it's got 4 codes in there. And if you look at it closely, it's basically like the alphabet, but with words kind of mixed in there. And so people were able to, so it's still kind of unsolved to a degree. People have solved 3 out of the 4 codes, but there's still the 1 remaining code that's unsolved on there. So it's a ciphertext on the sculpture that's in the courtyard. It contains 869 characters, 865 letters, and 4 question marks are in there. He released information. Nobody had solved it by 2006, so he released a letter that he stated that there was a letter that was omitted on the side of the Kryptos for aesthetic reasons, which I would have been pretty angry about if I was like working.
Yeah, that doesn't. That's not fair.
Like, dude, you left out a letter that just
leave
throws
out
everything off.
Man,
but he pointed that out, so people figured that out. There was finally, and this is funny, I thought, there was a guy finally that solved the code in 1999.
Can we take a guess what it said?
I think there's not actually anything there that he just fucking with people.
No.
Sorry. Drink more Ovaltine. Okay. Sorry.
There was a guy that solved it using a computer in 1999 named Jim Galooly. And I think this was like right after he had hit that ice skater in the knee.
Right. Same guy.
Same guy. Again, Jack the Ripper. So he solved it with, and this is the funny part. So he solved it with a computer in 1999, 3 out of the 4 sections. And then after he announced that, then the CIA came out and they said, well, actually, we had kind of signed it. We solved it with pencil and paper, on our own the year before, but we didn't want to tell anybody. We wanted people to keep. I was like, really?
That's pretty crappy.
That's some BS right there.
Yeah.
But so I'll tell you what the clue. So the first one he solved. So it read it says, between subtle shading and the absence of light lies the nuance of illusion. But the word illusion is spelled IQLUSION. So there's a Q stuck in there on purpose and intentional misspelling. So I'm thinking like if you put all 4 of them together and take those misspelled words and kind of do something, you'd probably get like a super clue at the end. Now the second one, this one's kind of weird. It's like giving out like a coordinates, but it's kind of a longer one. So the second clue that was solved, it says, it was totally invisible. How's that possible? ? They used the Earth's magnetic field, X.
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. The information was gathered and transmitted underground to an unknown location. Tunnels. There you go. This is all pulling together.
It's all coming together.
Does Langley know about this? ? They should. What? It's buried out there, Oak Island. Who knows the exact location? Only WW. This was his last message. Nostradamus. 38 degrees, 57 minutes, 6.5 seconds. North, 77 degrees, 8 minutes, 44 seconds. West, X, layer 2. So they looked that up and... Oh, where's the answer? It was only like 100 feet away, the location that he gave. So nobody knows what that, I'm not sure what that was supposed to mean, though. That's another mystery, I guess. Then they got the third clue. I hadn't read this one yet, because I hadn't had time to research this all the way. So the third clue says, slowly, desperately, slowly, the remains of passage debris, sounds like the tunnels again, that encumbered the lower part of the doorway was removed with trembling hands. I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner, and then widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in the hot air escaping from the chamber, caused the flame to flicker, but presently details of the room within emerged from the mist. X, can you see anything? Q, question mark. So again, there's the letter Q is popping in there. So that's all that they've solved.
I'm still in the dark.
Yeah, what does that
They
even
say that
mean?
that one is a paraphrase quotation from the guy that opened Tutankhamun's tomb back in 1922, Lord Carnarvon. So that was from him. I don't know about the Q though.
See, I don't know. It sounded like dirty poetry. Like it sounds like he's just fucking with people with
That's
these
what I'm saying.
these translations.
That's what I'm saying. There's probably not even a fourth thing.
Like they don't add up. And then also, if he gave like the specific area in clue number 2, did anybody dig giant tunnels into that or nothing?
I don't think it was only like 100 feet away, and this is still on government
100
land,
feet.
so it's not like people can just go there and.
But the government didn't.
But the government
dig
could.
or anything?
Well, I don't know. As far as I know, nobody found anything at that location.
Wow, man.
I think he's just fucking with people. I agree with Jack. I think it was just a bunch of letters, and then somebody decided to make a crypto quip out of it, and then he was like, "Okay, yeah."
But maybe
how
like
did they
what Tom-
get these phrases out of? I mean, people have they've like deciphered it to a degree.
But maybe
Right,
like
but-
what Tom said, the fourth one will go with the other 3 to create another puzzle.
Right, but this is a puzzle created by the artist who made this, right?
Right.
And he's apparently the only one that knows what it says.
No, I'm just getting at like I mean it's kind of like the cipher geeks out there, are definitely, working hard trying to figure it out. But is the idea that there's like a message in there that's a government secret or something? Like what are the theories as to what's behind it?
I don't know. I mean, that's the mystery.
Okay. So
But
it's just there.
Yeah, it's just a sculpture. I mean, on the surface, you can just say, okay, it's just a sculpture that they hired somebody to make a sculpture and put it out in the garden.
Right.
But then there's a lot of work that went into it. It's not just like some random sculpture.
Is it stone? Is it metal?
No, it's mostly metal. There's like granite and stuff mixed in there. But the guy is still alive, Jim Sanborn. He's 77 years old.
Well, that
now.
mother trucker better write it down somewhere before he gets Alzheimer's or some
he's
shit.
Not talking. He's not talking.
Put that in a bank safety deposit box or something.
We got to put him in the hole till he squeals. Yeah.
Put him down in the,
make him dig.
Give him a poop bucket until he tells us what the answer is. So that's but that was a local one. It's only a few miles like down Georgetown Pike from where I live. So I thought that was pretty cool.
No, it is cool. It's very odd art to have on government property if it's saying something. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I mean, see, that's always going to be the mystery. Even if you like deciphered it and it said something that seemingly, innocent, people could always read into it and say, well, what does it really mean though?
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty cool. Can you get, I don't think civilians can just drive in there though.
No.
It's like all checkpointed when I drive. I drive by there all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a tourist destination. Yeah, I've driven past there. You can't see anything from the roadway.
They have an SR-70. No, is an SR-70? It's the one that predated the SR-71.
The rocket. Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's been a while since I climbed over the fence. Oh,
yeah.
I shouldn't have said that. Okay, Des, you're
up. My last one is MH370. So MH370 was a Malaysian Airlines airplane, Flight 370. Yeah. You guys remember this? Now it's ringing a bell.
Oh yeah,
it looks like Oak Island.
Hold on, we're gonna get to this behind me. So basically, this airplane left from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and it was supposed to be going to Beijing, China. It was like a red-eye flight. and they took off or whatever, and as they were leaving Malaysian airspace, and so they were like doing their sign off. The pilot was like, "Okay, blah blah blah, good night," and like, I mean, I'm not a pilot, but I don't know how long it takes to like go from one airspace to the next. It's supposed to only take a couple of minutes. Like, you're supposed to sign off, and then you're supposed to sign in to like the next airspace, and the next airspace was Vietnam, I think. And so like the Vietnam air traffic control were like, da, 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 an H-370, welcome to Vietnam, or whatever the fuck they say.
Would you like some pho? Yeah.
Are you there? Are you there? Ah.
Okay.
I'm in an H-370. But they never heard from them. Like, they just never came onto the airspace.
I think their official greeting is "Good morning, Vietnam."
And
my brain went there too.
Some quality humor going on in this episode.
Sorry.
Just saying.
It's a long night.
Good morning, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they never said that because they never contacted air traffic control Vietnam. So, and they also, like, in that small window of time, like, disappeared from the radars. So, what the fuck happened to the airplane?
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
This is very recently, right? Like,
yeah,
what
this
year
is pretty. This is pretty recently. Like, I think 2013.
Okay.
So, then it disappeared. This like jetliner disappeared off of the radar, and then I guess some military radar had picked it up onto their radar. So they pieced all these radars together. Basically, like, the airplane is like going on its normal course, and then it signs off of the airspace and then takes a sharp like left turn and just like goes out of like, just, I mean, they have it on radar traveling quite a distance, but then just disappears. And they looked for this plane. I mean, obviously they're like, well, the plane crashed, sure, but why? Because they just didn't know. They're like, did something happen to the pilot? Did it get hijacked? Did it get run out of fuel? Was whatever.
It intentional?
Wasn't it? Because like I said, they usually have like all these recordings and stuff, but they had nothing. And they've still to this day have not found the airplane. Like, they found like a couple of parts have like been found on the coast of Australia, I think, but that's it. One of the more conspiratorial theories, which a lot of people believe this, I think I don't know what I think. Something weird happened. But this behind me is Diego Garcia. It's an island in the Indian Ocean, which I'm a little bit pissed about. Like, thank you, U.S. military, for taking over a cool-ass island. Like, you couldn't share. Take over a shittier one. But this island, the U.S. military, it's like a base. And it's been rumored to be like a prison base or a refueling base for, like, you know, invasions and stuff. But people are saying that the MH370 was shot down, or I guess was like getting hijacked, so it was shot down by the U.S. Air Force, and then was landed here at this island, and then I guess they just shot everyone on board. I don't know what they did with the people that were on board. Mystery. But anyway, I guess there also was like from somebody's cell phone that was a passenger, like a cell phone message got sent out, and it was just like a blank, like a black picture, and the coordinates, because you know how cell phones have, you can get it so much data, and it was pretty recent, so much data from like a cell phone picture, like the coordinates were from Diego Garcia. So the I guess theory is that the pilot had this island, the landing strip for this island, like, programmed into his flight simulator at his home, and after being shot down by the U.S. military or whatever, like, he was able to land there with no like they crash landing into the ocean.
No, they shot it down and they salvaged all of it and they made it go away.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was able to like not crash the ocean, but get on the runway.
They all died. They all died, clearly.
That's what yes, they died,
got shot down. Like, that's it. But then what's funny though is CNN, if I'm correct, Mike, didn't Don Lemon say that the plane got sucked into a black hole?
Yes.
A black
Okay.
hole.
Completely seriously.
Yes, completely seriously, CNN, which covers for your government,
Yeah.
told us that a black hole took the airplane. So
Yeah.
that plane is now property of the United States government. Like,
Yeah,
there's
it says
no doubt.
the theory is deemed credible after discovered that the island's landing strip was programmed to the MH370's pilot's flight home simulator. Some claim that the plane was shot down by the U.S. Due to hackers taking control of the Boeing 747. And the U.S. military shot it down to cover it up.
Oh,
Yeah, they
why?
definitely did that.
But then
What are they covering
then
up?
somehow the plane ended up at Diego Garcia, and then they just killed everyone that remained. I don't know why I don't know. It sounds weird, but at the same time, that picture's real suspect. Like, where the fuck did that picture come from? And why does it have this?
When was the picture taken? I mean, after it was shot down, or because how is the
like the
location
next,
is on that
was
island?
sent out like the next morning or something like that. Like it was
like they survived.
Or the phone somehow survived. I don't know. But I mean, cell phone data is
Did they parachute off the back of the airplane?
Probably not.
DB Cooper.
But why,
Then DB Cooper it.
why would they shoot it down? That's what and wouldn't there
because it's to cover up the hijacking. That's the theory. I'm not saying I believe that.
Wait. What if they shot it down accidentally and they
or
covered
maybe they shot it down accident. Maybe that's it. But they had to take the plane somewhere because the plane has not been found and no debris. Usually when planes crash, like debris is freaking everywhere. There's a debris.
Was this post 9/11? Post 9/11?
Yeah, it was like 2013.
And there's an airplane coming towards a military base, so maybe they shot it down for that. If the pilot was not responding, like the Vietnam guy said, they couldn't get him to respond.
And that may be true, but like, why then did he have the thing programmed into his flight simulator?
Did they ever research? Because when I first heard about this, about it going missing, and it was like 2014, 15, something like whatever. I was like, who was on the plane? Because to me, when you get to this, it's sort of like, Joe Bob is being investigated by, it was heading to China from Kuala Lumpur. Maybe there was someone on that plane that had to get Afghanistan or something.
Conspiracy theorists have suggested that MH370 was either captured by the United States and then flown to Diego Garcia, or was instructed to land there by some. Any
idea of who's on the passenger list? Is that publicly available?
I don't know if that's. I don't know. That might be. I've never looked into that, but
that sounds intriguing.
But they were all. There was like they were all. I can't remember if there was like any American people. I think if there was not very many. But there was like a French person. There was like an Australian person, maybe. But most of them were like Chinese, I think.
Yeah, why would the U.S. military shoot down a plane full of
that's what I'm saying. Who was on that?
People?
Who was on that plane?
Is that
I'm asking the same question. I kind of lean towards that. Like, who was on that plane?
Right.
There's also a theory that came out that said like there was a mysterious. Somebody spotted like a mysterious package being loaded into the plane, like an explosive, under the belly of the plane, or that there was a fire of sorts. And so, but what I'm saying, like, a plane crashes. Where the fuck is the debris?
Well, that's what I'm
also, the other weird part about it was, so if a plane goes missing, just a normal thought process, plane goes missing, you can't get a hold of it. They just signed out in airspace, and they did not sign into the airspace literally 2 minutes later, and they've disappeared from the radar. The next, probably the next like move is scramble the jets. Like, China is, the plane is heading to China with Chinese people on it. Like, you would think that once all that gets reported, that they would
send people up.
Like send people looking for the plane. Like, if that was the US, well, you would want to think that they would scramble the jets, right? But they didn't do that. They didn't even Malaysia, China didn't even know the plane went down until it didn't land in Beijing.
Wow.
Like, were you gonna say something, Malaysia? Like,
there's got to be something. I remember the shots of the family at the arrival airport, and like the plane doesn't land, and even I mean, just thinking about it now gives me goosebumps. But I just can't imagine waiting to pick someone up at the airport, and then like the plane doesn't come.
Doesn't land.
Like, what do you just get in your car and go home? I mean, that is horrible. I can't
They
even.
all put them in like a room for like hours.
Yeah, I mean, that is just so horrible.
But if
Can't
you're
even
trying to
imagine.
target like one person on there, is that
Mhm.
really the best way to kill
Well, you
one
cover it. I
individual?
mean, it's 10 years later, and I just thought of it again. As far as like, was this to cover up something else? I don't know.
And with all the technology and all the people that serve, this is like they spend so much, like so many countries, so many companies, so many, military official personnel, money, dollars from various governments spend so much time and money looking for this airplane. It should have been found at some point, somewhere. And they've got like all this, like if the plane went down here, there should be stuff here based on currents and stuff. And like I said, if a plane crashes, there's a debris field if you can look for it quick enough. But I don't know.
So pieces of it hit Australia, you said, and the
It
rest
was
could have just like
either
went out to the
Australia or
Pacific.
another small island, but like 3 pieces. Like it's an
It was like
airplane. There's
it was
lots.
like an aileron or like a flap or something. I remember seeing that. It was all covered with barnacles and all that. It just washed up on a beach.
So it went
But
down
if it
in the
was shot
water.
down and that part fell off the plane, that's the only part, and then like was made to land at Diego Garcia. Or maybe they just like put a couple pieces in the water. I don't know.
If it landed in that island, then why would those pieces come ashore in
If
Australia?
it was shot down because of the way currents work. I don't know.
The
But
thing
not if it
is,
landed on the island.
I don't know what the answer is, but I believe that at least the U.S. military knows something that they're not telling us, because
No doubt.
the sonar network and the listening that we have throughout the world is in the oceans is
I know, that's what I'm saying. Our
mind-boggling.
technology is like,
I mean,
we
when
can
that
see in like the Mariana Trench.
if that thing splashed down, there'd be a signature.
Yeah.
There'd be
Remember
a sonar
the
signature.
James Cameron thing where he could hear that submarine. He knew when it blew up or
Yeah,
imploded, I guess I
they
should
knew
say.
the time. Yeah,
So if this thing hit the water, somebody should have picked that up.
yeah, and it could
somewhere.
be triangulated.
Or it would be picked up on like a seismic, like something, a seismic, like what's it called? Seismometer?
Seismometer.
Seismometer.
Let's go with the
seismometer. Yeah, for
I like
earthquakes.
seismometer.
That's just right.
Really? Am I?
All right. Well, guys, have we been on for a while?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of mysteries in the world.
Yeah, no, there
Did we
are.
solve
I'm
any
sorry. I was
mysteries
just
tonight?
looking at the time. It's 11:45.
Yeah, well, if you have any information out there, viewer, please contact, and we will make sure the proper authorities are alerted.